And hello! It is me, it is I, it is Wink. The Riska one's very good. I'm glad you like it. It's based on when I read Riska text. Yeah, and that's what that's what it's based on. Because I refuse to let Riska text dialogue be based on like my face and voice. So Riska kind of dialogue is this one, and wait, very good Riska, yes. let me zoom in on the collection. So yeah, last time I think we're getting to a point when shit is getting more real. Like last time we went for this entire god tier kind of thing. John was killed by Jack, and then alternate Dave was killed by Jack too. There was the entire thing with like Teresi and Dave talking, and we had like a glimpse on their skills. A lot has happened. Like, oh my god, no, then I'm thinking about it, holy shit, a lot has happened last time. But I don't really want to recap a lot because yeah, it's gonna be a recap stream for a large part, and I mean, I'm not mad about it. Oops. Recap number 3. Look at Hussy go. I'm just really also we did the ball drop. Yeah, we did do the ball drop for New Year's. Yeah, we are officially on the yeah, almost like yeah, it's a while ago. 2nd of January 2011 is when this was posted originally. A while ago. But yeah, I don't really want to dilly-dally around a lot today because I have so much work to do. I need to read the entire recap, and I also have to highlight all the text. Yeah, almost exactly 11 years ago. Yeah, it's just one day off. Dang, I should have streamed yesterday. Do I need to zoom in more? I don't think I do. But yeah, man. Why is it all white? Why is it all in white? Ozzy, why? Either way. Last time shit went down, let's just say that, keep it at that, and we shall continue. Hope the audio's fine. I shall start with recap number 3. Been a while, Hussy, since we got one like this. Couple thousand pages or so, but yeah. Okay, let me just roll my shoulders. I cannot crack my neck. I would do it if I could. And let's begin with another Homestuck stream, right? No, I'm not Enki. I wanted to smile. There we go. Okay. After Act 4, we began Act 5, Act 1, otherwise known as Hive Band. We were introduced to 12 trolls from a planet called Alternia, which resides in another universe. We followed these trolls as they played their own 12-player session of Spurb, or to them, Scrub, to completion. A whole bunch of stuff happened along the way. In completing the game, they created the universe, our universe, home to Earth, and our 4 heroes. But they were denied entry into the new universe due to an encounter with an indestructible demon. This demon was the 4 times prototyped Jack Noir from the kids session, forced into the troll session due to a space-time rift the kids would later cause, called a scratch. The trolls fled to the Vale, discovered the existence of the kids, and began trolling them. Then Act 5, Act 2 started. Through a Trollian viewport, we see John moments before the scratch is initiated, wearing his god-tier Air of Breath suit in the land of heat and clockwork. About to put in motion a plan the other kids and the trolls all helped orchestrate to cause the scratch, period. Whole bunch of stuff happened along the way. Homestuck in a nutshell. Yeah, me trying to summarize anything to friends. And it's just like, it's complicated. To cause a scratch. This is the first conversation Carcat ever has with John, and the last John has with Carcat, pre-scratch. Carcat proceeds to troll John backwards through his timeline. John knows increasingly little, while Carcat gradually begins to understand more. Events from Carcat's perspective. Oh boy. Should I read this angrily? No, not gonna. 10 hours, 25 minutes before some critical moment, Jack arrives and destroys the gateway to the new universe. Aradia transports all the trolls to the Vale to hide. Her army of doomed duplicates takes on Jack. They're all destroyed. The trolls find a computer lab in the Vale and stay there for most of the time remaining before the critical moment to occur at 0. 6:12 before critical moment. Haha, 6:12 again, huh? 10:25. Oh yeah, 10:25 is the things, like the numbers together, right? 6:12 before critical moment. Jack destroys Prospit. Shortly before this, Kanaya chainsawed off Tavros's legs to replace them with robotic legs by Equius. At the sight of this, Karkat faints, and for the first time, his dream self wakes up on Prospit. He's awake for only a moment before he sees Jack, and finally recognizes him as Jack Noir, rather than the heretofore unidentified demon. Jack then kills him and all the other Prospit dreamers in the process of destroying the planet. Karkat remains asleep for an hour until 5:12:30 before critical moment, exactly halfway through countdown. While sleeping post-dream death, he dreams of horror terrors in the furthest ring, an experience anyone will have if sleeping after dream death. On waking up, he orders everyone not to sleep. He also wakes up to news that the humans were discovered. Neither he nor the other trolls understand the significance of the humans right away. They were discovered when Terezi was wired 413 boom bonds from Dave on her future instruction. She urges Karkat to take a closer look at them. He dismisses them as irrelevant. It's so interesting because they're kind of a self-fulfilling time loop. And because they're all self-fulfilling in the time loop and stuff, it's really like impossible to step out of the loop. Only just scratched a wing in the surface of that field. It's not until later he makes the connection between the Jack Noir in the kids session and the one hunting them down, recognizing them to be the same Jack, therefore placing kids at fault for the current predicament. He then conceives of the plan to troll the humans as a futile form of payback and urges his team to follow suit with a compelling speech. He isolates John as the primary target of his hatred after watching him grow up. Wait. Okay. He's sure John is fated to be his Mace's romantic partner specific to troll culture, centered around rivalry and loathing. In his first conversation with John in the air suit on Lohak, he professes these feelings clumsily. John cannot reciprocate. The awkward exchange causes Karkat to trap himself into continuing backwards on John's timeline, and the trolling continues in reverse fashion until John's first conversation with Karkat. By then, Karkat has explained many things to John along his journey, things about the game, about his role as an ectobiologist, and about their shared chief adversary, Jack Noir. In John's first conversation with Karkat, Karkat needs to get in touch with Jade. It's at this point in Karkat's timeline he has finally understood enough that he knows he must begin making plans with the kids for their mutual benefit. Karkat attempts to get in touch with Jade, who continues to ignore him in a particular time frame due to his persistent previous harassment of her in the years prior. He leaves a message to her months in the past, telling her she needs to get in touch with him when her robot explodes. The robot later finally does explode when her dream self is killed in the impact of Prospit's moon on the battlefield. When she wakes up, she remembers the message and contacts him. But she contacts him at a point in his timeline where he's not yet interested in hearing from her. He argues with her and is interrupted by his future self in a memo from a time where he is trying to contact her. He and his future self argue, and Jade mediates between the two, becomes angry and frustrated, and ceases the correspondence. By this point, the biggest meteor yet is approaching quickly, and she must enter the medium to escape. She requires John's assistance. He must recover the server disk, install it, and rescue her. Events from John's perspective. Phew! Already wiped sweat. John sleeps on Bro's rocket board, flying along with the meteors of the reckoning. He lands back on his planet, the land of wind and shade, Loas. His dream self had awoken after Dream Jade pushed him to safety from the blast of Prospit's moon. His dream self now exists on the battlefield, awake whenever John sleeps. He wanders the battlefield with his robot bunny, who he would later name Liv Tyler. Oh yeah, by the way, I watched Con Air. Forgot to announce that. I watched that while the year in Germany basically changed. I watched it in the last hour of 2021, in the first hour of 2022. It was absolutely dumb, stupid. Hated it. No, I loved it. It was. Did you see where the cinematic trash of that is? Oh yeah. I mean, it is absolute 90s action, like bullshittery. And I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it more because I then just moved on to Deep Impact because it's also a poster that John has in his room, and I was not impressed by that one. A Deep Impact, in my honest opinion, is just a worse and more boring Armageddon. Armageddon did everything better. I mean, except for Morgan Freeman, maybe. But yeah, Deep Impact was kind of bad. But Con Air, dumb, absolute bullshit. But I was very happy when I finally saw the put the bunny back in the box scene, and I now know where it's from. Okay, where was I? Why didn't he just put the bunny back in the box? Yeah, I don't know. It was so sad. He could have just not died if he just would have put the bunny back in the box. Okay, Prosperous dreams itself now exists on a battlefield, awake whenever Sean sleeps. He wanders the battlefield with his robot bunny he would later name Liv Tyler. He sees his dad and Rose's mom and runs to meet them, but he wakes up before reaching them, and his dream self disappears. The ring he was carrying falls into a ravine below, later to be discovered by Vagabond? Before his exile to post-apocalypse Earth. Ugh, Vriska. Hell yeah, just in time. Welcome, Spartan! Vriska is responsible for waking him up. Upon discovering John, she takes an interest in his advancement and uses her abilities to help him progress and set up critical events along his timeline. The only effect her abilities have on humans is to wake them up or put them to sleep. In this case, she woke him up so he would be able to receive the server disk about to come out of Apostle Pixies. The disk had been deposited into the pipeline by PM some time ago. She and Chong continue to converse and he befriends her. Oblivious to the true nature of her schemes, she functions as his patron troll, a troll who is particularly focused on helping one of the kids, like Teresi is with Dave and Kanaya is with Rose. Surprising amount of mundane info for the post-Homestuck reader is big spoils from mid-Homestuck reader. Oh, okay, yeah. Sort of nature of story legacy, yeah. Yeah, which is why I'm very glad that, you know, Piscean is like checking back and stuff, because it's a huge, large story. And I don't want any spoilerinos, so yeah. Even though I'm super curious about a bunch of stuff, like design-wise, I'm super curious about the God tier stuff. I really want to know more about that. But I guess the only way to really find out more safely is to just continue reading. John returns to his house and installs his server, but not before touching base with Rose, who's committed to cracking open the secrets of the game through dark magic, and Dave, who's from the future, having time traveled extensively over the course of the 24-hour reckoning period. John also encounters Nana, who gives him a pendant granting him the ability to summon her. She conjures a ghost bed for him and cooks for him with a ghost oven. He floats on his bed high above Lova's while he connects to Jade. Jade, who had woken up in her bed at the foot of the hill, returns to her house to find John setting up the equipment. John deploys the alchemiter and lathe in her greenhouse and the Krugstrude in front of her fireplace. He opened the Krugstrude and discovers there are 10 minutes and 25 seconds. The numbers again. Until impact. They discuss that to what to prototype with, if anything. Rose warns him of the danger of failing to prototype, which would not allow the battlefield to heal, evolve to its final form, and grow the tumor inside, which is critical to her plan to destroy the Green Sun. John resolves to prototype with the blue doll, missing an arm and an eye, to deliberately disable Jack. But Vriska puts him to sleep before he can. Becquerel then prototypes himself to destroy the meteor and save Jade. I'm glad that this like is literally worded here, because I was not sure if, because, you know, Beck is, or was, I guess at this point, the first Guardian whose job is to protect the planet. I was not sure if Beck was like doing the entire thing to protect Jade or to protect the planet. What was his main goal in his main motive to jump into the kernel? But I guess it was to protect Jade, so I'm glad that it is literally like written out here to confirm that. As he sleeps, John's ghost bed crashes into an oil ocean below. He loses his computer with the server disk in it. He kind of destroys the planet by protecting Jade. Yeah, I do not really... I mean, yeah, kinda, but at the same time, it's not really destroying, because I am pretty sure if the meteor, the way how... I think I mentioned this last time too. I'm pretty sure that if the meteor hit Earth without back kind of stopping it, Earth would have just shattered into a million billion pieces. And he didn't save Earth. I think back just kind of slowed down the crash. The impact a little bit. The deep impact. The deep impact was not as deep, thanks to Becquerel's help. I mean, all life on it is definitely fucked at this point, but it would have been fucked either way. I think Becquerel kind of caused Earth to not be completely destroyed. But that's just my personal little Homestuck theory. Okay, where was I? Nana's pendant. He hops to a small island. He notices the ocean is on fire over the horizon. The fire is approaching. He talks to Rose, who informs him Jade entered while he slept and he is safe. She tells him about a quest he'll need to go on later to recover the tumor from the battlefield and bring it to her. He then talks to Karkat, who is speaking to him for only the second time from Karkat's perspective. Karkat explains exactly what the kids did that made him decide to troll them. He blames Jade for prototyping Bag, creating Bag Noir, who is now terrorizing the troll session while blaming John for allowing it to happen. Yeah, it was not John, but Karkat doesn't know that. Meanwhile, the fire is approaching his island and has turned green due to Bag Noir's transformation, taking place during a duel with Bro and Daysprite elsewhere in Loas. Brow. John is contacted by Vriska, who admits to putting him in this position to challenge him, to realize his potential as the heir of breath. She also admits to deliberately playing a role in the creation of Bag Noir, wanting to be involved in his rise, just as she also plans to be the one to kill him. She explains that regardless of her actions leading to his rise, his existence in the troll session is immutable. Due to the nature of paradox space, that outcome could not be changed with different actions. The only consequence of different actions would be an offshoot timeline in which all participants would be doomed. I'm singing the Doom song now. Doom, 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 doom. Snacks acquired. It is officially Homestuck time. Amazing. As the fire surrounds him, she encourages him to use his abilities. Do the Wendy thing! That was Wayward Vagabond, though. And with some coaxing from, Wayward Vagabond, who commands him from his station. Why do I say things? He does the windy thing. The breeze surrounds Loas and puts out the fire completely and blows Sean to a larger landmass just outside the village. The breeze also clears the clouds from the sky, but they return shortly as the spell over the planet must be broken by other means. By unlocking this ability, he reaches the top of the Escher ladder and becomes the air transparent. John, do the windy thing! It's not my fault the time that made me do it. Wouldn't that be a way to get out of work, huh? Couldn't do my essay. The timeline made me do it. Anyway. Vriska then informs him the only thing left to do is reach the god tier, which is done by sleeping on his quest bed, which is nearby. She tells him to ask the locals about it. He does and finds the quest bed beyond the village, after a couple other adventures we had. He sits in the bed but isn't tired. Vriska gives him the choice of whether he would like her to put him to sleep. He agrees. While he sleeps, Jack Noir finds him and stabs him through the chest, killing him. Wayward Vagabond watches his death on the monitor and commands him to rise up. Wayward Vagabond sees nothing except fireflies gather around John's body, while the quest bed glows. After the spectacle, there is no change. John's body remains motionless and the monitor shuts off. Wayward Vagabond believes John has died. And he's right. But on the battlefield, his dream self appears lying on a corresponding quest bed. His dream self slowly takes on the signs of the wound inflicted on his real self as it rises. His dream self then takes over as his real self, with all wounds healed as the fully realized heir of breath. Wayward Vagabond pre-exile watches this happen on the battlefield. He remembers this moment long after his exile, without understanding what transpired. But on Earth, Wayward Vagabond believes he has just witnessed the end of John's quest. Wayward Vagabond is still in possession of the ring and has accidentally locked himself in the station, and there is not enough power to unlock it. The only source of power is a lump of uranium which he ate hours ago. So he waits. Oh. Gotta poop it out, I guess. John now wanders this battlefield, poised to complete the objective he was given by Rose. Events from Rose's perspective. Oh boy, we're halfway through. Phew! Okay. Rose uses her dark magic to search for ways to subvert the usual course of the game and overcome the futility of the situation, which, with assistance from her patron troll Kanaya. Counsel from the gods of the furthest ring and information provided by Doc Scratch. Kanaya begins trolling Rose, suspecting her to be the author of the game fag guide she read in Alternia, a figure she grew up idolizing. It's so weird though, because like the human universe gets created by the troll session, but the thing already existed? It's so strange. The time loop is so weird. But I mean, I like it. It's a really cool thing. I think I should, but she becomes disappointed with her due to a series of miscues resulting from a sporadic nonlinear trolling. She continues conversing with her nonlinearly, engaging in a feud of snarky one-upmanship. Gradually befriending her, she eventually realizes Rose is the true author of the guide when she watches her destroy the gate above her house with magic. She then continues helping her in a more linear fashion, uncovering the secrets of the game and sharing her own extensive knowledge of the game with her. Ultimately, as Kanaya begins to understand the true nature of Rose's plan, she becomes afraid Rose is dangerous. She's especially unnerved by the fact that soon in Rose's timeline, the viewport goes dark, and she can no longer be monitored. But she acknowledges she can do nothing to stop her, so she trains Eridan to become a powerful white wizard of hope to challenge her as a joke. A particular target of Rose's investigation is the Green Sun. She rips apart underground ruins to retrieve information on it, and is further informed by Doc Scratch on the subject. The Green Sun is a huge star nearly twice the mass of the universe. It resides somewhere in the furthest ring and serves as the power source to all First Guardians. Beck was Earth's first Guardian, and when he became prototyped, Jack inherited all his powers, which are supplied by the Green Sun. Doc Scratch is the first Guardian of Alternia. Doc Scratch, like Beck, is a virtually omnipotent. Doc Scratch, like Beck, is a virtually omnipotent being with all the same powers. Unlike Beck, he's an intelligent host to those powers and is therefore also omniscient. Ah, okay, so because Beck has a doggo brain, Beck is originally not omniscient. His job is to pave the way for the arrival of his employer, an indestructible time-traveling demon called Lord English. Lord English can only enter a universe upon its death, at which point he travels back in time to an earlier point in the universe's lifespan to assume leadership of his gang of mobsters called the Felt. Huh, okay. This was probably mentioned before, but hearing it again is pretty good. Doggo brain, woof woof. His machinations, like Scratch's, are in part designed to bring about his own future entrance. Before the trolls began their session, Scratch took measures to both pave the way for English to arrive, as well as contribute to his own creation. First Guardians have circuitous, self-fulfilling origins, much like the players of Spurb. Beck was created in a lab through ectobiology by merging the ghost slime image of Grandpa's dog Harley with Rose's meow code, which is, I think, CTAG, if I remember correctly. Scratch had a similar but yet unknown origin. Scratch manipulated several members of the Trolls party into playing Spurb, or Scrub, in the first place. Notably, he manipulated Riska into killing Radia, who as a ghost became the primary orchestrator of the session. He was also used as something of a pawn himself by Teresi in exacting revenge against Riska, causing her to lose an eye and an arm. This was another key moment in the critical cycle of revenge, leading to Teresi's blindness and awakening. Riska's eventual death by Radia's retaliation, and then Riska's resurrection to the god tier as the Thief of Light. And a dump outfit. Having done everything he needs to do, Scratch tells Rose he wishes to die. Thus, the destruction of the Green Sun is to their mutual benefit, and Rose forms a plan. While she gave the short version of the plan to John, telling him he'd need to recover the tumor, she tells the full plan to Dave. The tumor at the center of the battlefield is in fact a very powerful bomb, capable of destroying the Green Sun. She will go to sleep and Sean will bring it to her dream self. Meanwhile, Dave is to go to sleep and listen to the gods who will tell him how to find the sun. He will make a map and Rose will plot a course there and destroy the green sun in a suicide mission. Ideally, this will negate all of Jack's powers, reducing him to mortal status again. Events from Dave's perspective, and then we go through all the events of each of the trolls' perspective, and we are gonna sit here until tomorrow, right? Okay. After entering the gate above his apartment, Dave begins exploring Lohak under the lead of Heat and Clockwork, under the guidance of his patron troll Teresi. A fascination with him was prompted by the money wire from his future self, which alerted her to the existence of the humans in the first place. She watched him grow up with his bro and made some observations about humanity through his upbringing. She then committed to helping him in part due to her rivalry with Vriska, who sought to make sure the human she favored, Chon, would outpace Dave. Over the course of the adventure she coordinates for him, Dave experiences about 3 days chronologically due to looping through time and fulfilling the requirements of various time loops. The key objective is to make enough money for him to be able to wire it to her in the first place, completing the time loop that started it all. The sum of money vastly exceeds what is typically gathered in the session, and it must be accumulated by manipulating the Lohak stock exchange using time travel. Stonks. Along the way, Dave and Teresi befriend each other, trading comics and perpetrating financial capers. In the early going, Teresi leads him into a pot of soup prepared by his crocodile consorts for no particular reason other than a need to tap him on his timeline. Doubtful of the need of her help, he nearly quit but received reassurance from his future self and continued exploring. Yeah, it was the mutual thumbs up that Dave gave himself. He goes underground and discovers gold ruins. Before entering, he's interrupted by Karkat, who uses a memo to warn both him and John about their involvement with Teresi and Vriska, telling them the Scorched Sisters are partaking in a dangerous game of rivalry-fueled flirtation, which has gotten both him and John killed at least once each. Karkat speaks from a time in which he's aware of a plan developing... Oh my god, no, my stupid phone just activated. Stupid Bixby. Where was I? Karkat speaks from a time in which he's aware of a plan developing which may lead to the kids and trolls meeting each other. I'm very excited about that. And does not look forward to the results of the gathering if these trends continue. Oh yeah, he was just like, it's just gonna make out with each other and I'm gonna be all grossed out. And John was like, making out. John and Dave disregard his advice. Wait, why is this music so loud again? There we go. John and Dave disregard his advice. Dave proceeds into the ruins and finds a legendary sword lodged in a block of gold. He breaks it to retrieve it and is told by Dave's bride that the sword is critical to his personal quest as the Knight of Time. Teresi then tells him he is about to fall asleep without knowing Vriska was behind this nap as well. Dave goes to sleep and Dave's bride defends him from a horde of powerful monsters. Before Dave wakes up, Dave's bride leaves to find Bro. He does and joins him in battle against Jack. When Jade enters, Jack transforms into Bac Noir and defeats both of them. Bro is slain by his own sword and a body is discovered by Dave later, who can't bring himself to retrieve the sword. While sleeping in the ruins, Dave's dream self wakes up again on Durst's moon. Following Rose's advice, he looks into the sky and takes off his shades. He gets his first glimpse of the gods. He then wakes up from hearing a gunshot fired by Jade as she battles an imp and quickly teleports away. The first of 3 times he sees her in this manner. He sees her again in the Lohak's... Is this like... what Lohak's exchange? Stonks. And again while visiting Jade's planet. He then goes on to make all the money needed to buy all the Frey motifs, which are powerful battle techniques purchased from consorts, and to reach the top of his echelon. But he still wanted to know why he would never be able to reach Chon's level. But Chon didn't get all the Frey motifs, did he? He was not rich enough to get those. To satisfy his curiosity, Teresi gives him a choice somewhere in the middle of his timeline, a choice to be decided by a coin flip. Wait, did I? Oh, yeah. He could assign the outcome of the flip to mean he would either be shown now or later. The outcome of the flip, which Teresi did not even look at, was a constant. Two realities are created by his two possible decisions. The decision to be shown now creates a doomed reality, wherein Dave becomes doomed. The decision to wait. Doom is such a funny word. The decision to wait simply continues the alpha reality, and Dave remains the alpha Dave. Alpha Dave, Beta Dave, Sigma Dave. Doomed Dave follows Teresi's instructions given to him before the flip. He is to go back in time, leaving his doomed timeline and sleep on his quest bed, and if he has what it takes to reach his god tier, he will. Alpha Dave, after waiting some time, was instructed to go to the bed to find Sleeping Dave and kill him, thus allowing him to face the true gravity of this decision. Dave doesn't go through with it and decides to end his collaboration with Teresi for the time being. Later, doomed Dave wakes up, gets out of bed, and is immediately killed by Jack. 3:14. For the critical moment, I mean, it's not 4:13, but almost. Before the critical moment, Teresi watches and is upset by her involvement in his death. She runs off deeper into the lab. Dave travels to Jade's planet, the land of frost and frogs, Lotheth. While standing in the snow, he sees Jade appear briefly while fighting an imp, just as he did before in the ruins. He contacts her and she mentions she has lost track of John. Dave tells her John's busy without mentioning he was in the process of rising to the god tier. He says John can no longer be her server player and they would have to make other plans. Dave tells her to deploy the IntelliBeam laser station in his apartment. The device allows very complex capture codes for certain items, like a sperm disk to be read, which couldn't otherwise be read by the human eye. He then creates a copy of his own server disk and uses it to connect as Jade's server player. He becomes the server player for both Rose and Jade, though past Dave would stay concerned with Rose's connection, while he, as future Dave, would concern himself with Jade's connection. He deploys a new alchemiter and helps her upgrade it. With his massive reserve of grist accumulated in his travels and his more advanced torrenting capabilities, he allows Jade to alchemize some sophisticated equipment right away. Ah yes, so sophisticated. A bit later, she contacts him again after learning of his dead bro and dead doomed self. He assured her that dead Dave was just a doomed copy and he would be fine. She decides Jack needs to be stopped, and they should come up with a better plan than Rose's suicide mission to stop him. He suggests the idea is futile, but lets her know she'd come to her own decision regardless and he'd be available to talk later if needed. Still gives me emos, he cares. Events from Jade's perspective. When Jade's dream self is killed, her robot explodes, destroying her room, causing her to fall. Back transports her bed to break her fall. She falls asleep. Fall. Now dream that she has a dream in a bubble blown by a god in the furthest string and meets the fairy there. The fairy, a Durst dreamer, went to sleep to convince the gods to establish dream bubbles when they can meet while asleep, as long as their dream selves are dead. While she's asleep, 4:13, before the critical moment, Jack destroys the troll's Durst, killing her and all the Durst dreamers. She, along with all other trolls and Jade, would then only dream in the furthest spring, where she met Jade and attempted to show her the gods were harmless. But Jade sees through the bubble and catches a glimpse of the gods. She wakes up with a headache, scared of what she saw, and resolves to stay awake. The fairy messages her and introduces herself as the one from the dream. It is the second time they've spoken. The first time was long ago, from Jade's perspective. Jade realizes her robot has exploded, causing her to remember that was her cue to message Karkat. She does, and the aforementioned confusion takes place in the memo with past and future Karkat. Past Karkat berates her, while future Karkat defends her. She reprimands both of them for arguing with each other, who are the same person separated by only 3 hours. Dave enters the memo and mocks future Karkat for his flirtation with Jade after the lecture he gave John and Dave on a subject. Jade ends the conversation and is in no particular hurry to get back to him about the important matter he wanted to discuss. The meteor's impact is imminent. John connects with her and helps her prepare for entry. She makes her entry item for the pre-punched card. A tree sprouts from the alchemiter, and a green bag-shaped piñata dangles from a branch. A green blindfold appears over her eyes, which she cannot remove. She attempts to strike the piñata with the butt of the rifle, which does no damage. Instead, it releases a burst of energy, causing the greenhouse to explode and Jade to fly out and fall. While falling, she takes a shot in the dark with her rifle. By this point, Beck has prototyped himself to become Beck Sprite and has destroyed the meteor with a massive green energy blast, releasing a huge shockwave spreading over the surface of Earth, destroying much of what hadn't been already by the meteor storm of the reckoning. Beck Sprite then appears in front of her bullet and redirects it into the head of the piñata, destroying it. Jade, her house, and a large part of her island, including the volcano, are all transported into a median on Lofaf. Good that this is pointed out here as well. I did not quite understand this part in the Flash as it is intended, that Beck teleports himself in front of the bullet to lead it towards the piñata. Thanks for clearing that up, Huzzy. She falls through the snow of Lofaf, now unblindfolded. Beck Sprite again breaks her fall with a bed, and again she falls asleep. She has a recollection of sitting on her bed back on Earth some time ago, working on Sean's present. It's then that Feferi contacts her the first time. Jade believes she is trolling her like the others, but she only means to reassure her what happened wasn't her fault, as well as inform her of her plan to establish the dream bubbles. But soon both realize this is not a memory, but a dream they're currently sharing, with the memory as a stage. The fairy meets Jade in her room and compliments her on her work on the bunny. The fairy also claims to be dead. Jade wakes up again, just as agitated as the first time she woke up. Whew. She gets out of bed and realizes her lunch tub is still in the destroyed greenhouse. She begins her ascent, but it is interrupted by an encounter with an imp, which takes her on a trans-Insipisphere journey, visiting many locations and passing by 3 instances of Dave, including a future Dave who ends up helping her later. The imp is finally killed by Beck Sprite. PM from post-apocalypse Earth, just after discovering her station and en route to the Frog Ruins, tries to issue commands to Jade through the terminal. Beck Sprite is alert to these commands and protectively destroys PM's terminal. Jade returns and finds her computer undamaged. Future Dave contacts her after seeing her out in the snow. He then becomes her server player and sets up her equipment after most of it was destroyed/transported before entry. As she prepares to alchemize new items, she's contacted by her fairy god troll. Oh man, yeah, that entire conversation hurt. A distinction which does not necessarily have anything to do with being a kid's patron troll. Tavros seeks permission from her to commune with Beck again. The first time he did it was when she was very young and playing with her grandpa's flintlock pistols. She accidentally fired the gun at herself. Tavros communed with Beck to get him to transport the gun and the bullet away from her and toward her grandpa who was picnicking with the blue doll, killing him. Tavros mistook him for an intruder, but regardless, Jade's upset by the revelation. He digs himself into a deeper hole by professing flushed feelings for her awkwardly, while making bold claims of high self-esteem and confidence granted from his new robot legs. Put off by this, she is not particularly receptive to his plan to commune with Beck Sprite to take on Jack Noir and ends the conversation. My poor baby boy. It's my... Riska, who was reading the conversation, mocks Tavros for his false show of confidence. She continues to take jabs at him, calling him a coward and able to do one thing she asked, which would have given him real confidence. She refers to the incident preceding her resurrection to the god tier. After she was nearly beaten to death by Aradia, Tavros finds her, believing her to be dead. He attempts to bring her back to life with a kiss, but having woken up and prospered after the beating, Riska's dream self is able to control his mind. She makes him choke himself, simply to prevent the kiss to avoid the standard resurrection process, which would prohibit god tier ascension. She does not wish to control him completely, intending to leave the following decisions to him to make him stronger. Instead, she merely controls his hand to write messages to himself using her blood. She instructs him to take her to her quest cocoon and to kill her on the sacrificial slab before she bleeds to death. He hesitates and she continues to insist while her dream self gradually takes on the same wounds inflicted on her real self, causing her demands to become more desperate. The more desperate she gets, the more terrified Tavros becomes, and he finally flees without killing her. She eventually dies and is resurrected on the battlefield as the Thief of Light. Still holding this against him, she berates him for his newfound attitude and regards his plan to influence the kid's timeline as a cheap imitation of her tactics. She brags about the ways she has manipulated events on their timeline so far by practicing her abilities in Jade repeatedly, causing her to fall asleep frequently. She describes the ways in which she has inserted her— is that why Jade has narcolepsy? Was it Riska all along? That's a revelation, huh? By practicing her abilities in Jade repeatedly, causing her— oh my god, Riska is the worst. I hate her so much. Causing her to fall asleep frequently, she describes ways in which she has inserted her agenda into existing events, tipping off agents to the whereabouts of the Meow Codebook and other such incidents, which contributed to the rise of Jack Noir, so she could claim responsibility for his existence before taking him on herself. Tavros becomes angry with her incessant mockery and the extent of her treachery and decides to seek her out and to challenge her. She waits for him somewhere in the lab. After the conversation with Tavros, Jade alchemizes a number of items. He was warned about the stairs. One of which is a legendary rifle, Ahab's crosshairs, supplied by Eridan. Eridan, now believing himself to be a powerful wizard, feels he's surpassed the need for the weapon and gives it to Jade to fuel the rivalry he mistakenly assumes she has with Rose, as payback for Rose's early dismissal of his black advances. Jade recognizes it as one of the weapons she included with the bunny for John. The weapons were provided by her pen pal, who she accidentally revealed to be her grandson from the future. Her pen pal swore her to secrecy on the matter. What? So she did the same with Eridan, though he admitted this would be the last time he talked to any human regardless. Realizing the new rifle would serve as a sort of heirloom to her grandson, she decided to discard it outside her house and allow it to reach her grandson eventually, however it may. Eridan then blew up her Chani top. Okay, reaching the end here. Another item she created was a pair of junior CompuSoup spectagoggles, allowing her to see anything in the Incipisphere at the present moment. She saw John as the heir of breath on a battlefield, Rose and Lohag talking to Doc Scratch, Dave Sprite's pendant covered in blood nearby Bro's dead body, and the slain doomed Dave. She contacts Dave to make sure he's alright. She then comes up with a plan to take on Jack Noir. She contacts Tavros again to talk about the plan he proposed, but he has left to take on Riska. She has only one idea left. She goes up to her grandpa's lab, summons back Sprite, and tosses in her dream self, which her grandpa had retrieved from the battlefield and stuffed many years ago. Black Sprite becomes Jade Sprite, but Dream Jade is not pleased by the transformation. She freaks out and releases the typical First Guardian pyrotechnics. The lab plummets, crushing the column and greenhouse below. It bounces away from the house, rolling into a large snowball and settling near a green stump. The two Jades sit in a state of dismay amidst the rubble of the lab and the glow of a damaged fourth wall. As the clock ticks down to the critical event, the most important character in Homestuck sits and watches this pandemonium ensue. And then the second most important character in Homestuck positions a shitty drawing of himself in front of a typewriter and writes this recap. I think this typewriter is running out of ribbon ink. Thank God that white ink is such a pain in the ass to read. Almost as much as these recaps are to write. It's all turned around. It's supposed to be black and then turned to white and not the other way around. Oh God, my eyes.